So with the new brand support out in Master Duel, I figured it might be helpful to compile all the basic combos you need to play with the new cards now. And I'm gonna cover like most 1 to 2 card combinations, but keep in mind that this is a deck where any additional card in your hand can and will change your combo lines, and I don't think it's feasible to cover every single possible combination of different hands you can have and what combos are going to. So this is just gonna be the basics that you'll need to start playing, and as you play the deck more, you'll pick up on things, and then you'll learn more lines and all that stuff. So first off, this combo is just gonna be Branded Fusion and 4 blanks in hand. Just pretend like you have 4 Ash Blossoms in hand, and your only starter is Branded Fusion. So obviously we're gonna start with Branded Fusion, and if all you have is Branded Fusion, we're gonna make Lubellion first by dumping Albaz. You always dump Fallen Albaz, and we'll dump Tragedy. This is exactly this is the one combo that's exactly the same as it was with Brand and Despia before the new support. So this should be familiar to most people. And we'll trigger Lubellion, pitch a random blank card, and Tragedy will trigger. For Tragedy we can add our Aluber, and Lubellion will make Mirror Jade with itself and the Fallen of Albaz. Next we can normal summon the Aluber we just searched, and let's add our Branded in red, and we can set it for next turn. So this is just the exact same as it was before. If all you have is Branded Fusion, you can end on a Mirror Jade Banish and Branded in red, which you can use to make Guardian Chimera on your opponent's turn. And obviously when you use Mirror Jade, you will dump something like an Albion for a follow-up on the next turn. Yeah, this is a very, very simple, very basic line. So this next combo is going to be, instead of opening Branded Fusion, we opened Aluber instead. Or we open Branded Fusion plus any dark monster. And you might be wondering, how much does it change if you just open Aluber instead of Branded Fusion? Aren't you just going to add the Branded Fusion? Well, you'll see why this is a big difference. So obviously you normal the Aluber, and we get Branded Fusion. Always gonna resolve because we drew the cross out. Activate Branded Fusion. We'll dump. This time we're not going for Lubellion anymore, since Lubellion is only for the you only hard make Lubellion off Branded Fusion if your only starter is Branded Fusion. Since we opened Aluber, we're actually going for Albion by dumping Fallen Albaz, obviously, and the Bystial Lubellion. Then, when Albion is summoned, we're going to use Albion's effect to make Lubellion. And this is why having the Aluber is key, because you need a dark monster for to banish with Albion in order to make Lubellions. And if you just had Branded Fusion, you wouldn't have the Aluber, you wouldn't have the dark monster to banish for Albion. So now we make the Lubellion, and Lubellion will pitch any card and go into our Mirror Jade using Albaz and itself. Next, since we dumped the Bystial Lubellion with Branded Fusion, now use Lubellion to tribute Albion. And you can use Lubellion to set any branded spell trap face up. You're gonna set Branded Lost face up. And end phase, since you tributed Albion with Lubellion, you can use Albion to search a card. Now, if you had a Fallen of Albaz or a Despia monster to discard off Lubellion, you could set Branded Red, because Branded Red would then be live, and then you would have a Chimera on your opponent's turn, plus a Mirror Jade. You could also set Banishment in that case too, and since we've properly summoned Albion, you can actually just set Banishment and revive the Albion during your opponent's turn, and then you can use the Albion to fuse with. And Banishment is really good against tier meta that we're in right now. And you can also set Branded Retribution, because Branded Retribution has a secret effect. It's its first effect. Everyone knows the effect of Branded Retribution to add a Branded Spell Trap from the grave to your hand, but it also has an effect that says when it effect is activated that includes an effective special summon, you can return to the extra deck one face-up fusion monster you control, or 2 fusion in your graveyard, and negate the activation. So you can set Retribution, use your Mirror Jade, and then after your Mirror Jade is used up, you can return the Mirror Jade for Branded Retribution and use it as a solemn warning. Okay, we're back with the same line. I actually want to show what happens if you happen to have a Despia monster or Fallen of Albaz in hand to discard with Lubellion. So we're going to do that for Lubellion. Then we're going to make our Mirror Jade with our Lubellion and our Albaz. And then Bystial Lubellion will tribute the Albion. And this will get us our Branded Lost from deck. And now let's go to the end phase when we use Albion. Since we have a valid target in grave now, because of the Despia monster we discarded, we can set our Branded in red. And what's neat about this is during our opponent's turn, we'll wait for the AI to do something. Alright, so we can obviously we can use Mirror Jade to send something for our extra deck to banish. It's a nice Luna right there. Okay, forget about that. And we can also, with the Branded Red, during our opponent's turn, you can activate it to get back our Despia monster and make Guardian Chimera. While Branded Lost on the field. So when you summon Chimera, you can Chimera Chainlink 1 and Adlib, bring back the Mirror Jade, and Branded Lost. Branded Lost will search us a copy of Mercourier to hand. And since our Despia monster was Adlib, we get the Mirror Jade back. And then the Chimera will trigger and pop. So yeah, that's the key thing. Since if we have a live Despia monster in grave, allowing us to search Branded Red, we can then fusion with Branded Red on our opponent's turn. We get the Chimera pop, which is another interruption, and then Branded Lost can search as Mercourier, which is a monster negate, which is a third interruption. Okay, so we covered the basic lines so far. The ones where we Branded Fusion for Lubellion when all we have is Branded Fusion, and the ones where we Branded Fusion for Albion when all we had we had Aluber. Now we're gonna go into some more involved lines with 2 card combos. We're gonna start with the ones where we brand infusion for Rindbrumm. So Rindbrumm, to make this, we're going to be sending out Mercourier from deck. So in order for this combo to work, you need a Bystial monster in hand to banish the Mercourier. So this combo is going to be Brand Infusion's Kit or Aluber and a Bystial. And to add that, there's actually like two variations of this too. One is when your Bystial is Lubellion or Saronir, and one is when your Bystial is anything else. So since we have Druid's Worm, we're going to show off the Aluber and the Druid's Worm combo. So get Aluber, use Aluber's effect, get us our Brand Infusion. We're gonna Brand Infusion for Rindbrumm, dumping Mercourier and Albaz. Next, we're gonna use our Druid's Worm, banishing the Mercourier. And Mercourier is gonna trigger to add us our copy of Cartesia. This is gonna be the first line involving Cartesia. Since we have an Albaz in grave, we can special summon Cartesia from hand. And use Cartesia's effect to special summon Grand... if anybody knows how to say this name properly, let me know. I'm just gonna say Grand Guignol. And we're gonna use itself and the Aluber on field. And on summon Grand Guignol, it's gonna send Albion from our extra deck. Now go into end phase. Make sure you have toggled on. End phase. First, use Blazing Cartesia's effect. Add itself back to hand. Then we're gonna use Albion's effect. And here we would add Branded in red. Or we already have Branded in red, so I'll just add a blank. But make sure you do not set the Branded in red. Make sure you add it to your hand. So that while in the end phase, use Branded in red on the Albaz. You're gonna make Mirror Jade with Albaz and the Grand Guignol. Still in the end phase, trigger Mirror Jade's effect to send Brigran, the Glory Dragon, to grave. Next, you're gonna use Rindbrumm's effect to negate Mirror Jade. This is very important because now since Mirror Jade is negated, its banished is still live for the next turn, which is very nice. So we got a dump of a fusion monster for free, and now return the Bystial monster to hand. So now you have a Bystial monster for next turn too, and Brigand is gonna activate and get us our Mercourier. Okay, well pretend you add a Mercourier to hand, but honestly this is fine too because Mercourier, fun fact, Mercourier can also negate from the field as well. You can send itself from the field or grave to negate a monster effect. So even if you misclick, you still get the interruption from Mercourier. You have a Mirror Jade banish as an interruption, the Rindbrumm monster negate and bounce as an interruption, and you added the Druid's Worm, the Bystial, back to your hand. So it's 4 interruptions right there plus follow up with just Aluber and a Bystial. You could do this with Brand. If you had Brand Infusion instead of Aluber, you do the same line. You just wouldn't. You would have to fuse the Druid's Worm, so you wouldn't have the Druid's Worm in hand, but you can still do the same line and end on these 3 interruptions right here. So we're doing the Rindbrumm line again, except this time our Bystial that we open is Lubellion. So sorry off. You know, I know we have Saronir in hand already, but we're gonna use Lubellion to get Saronir. And we're gonna use Aluber to get our Brand Infusion. And Brand Infusion, send Mercourier to grave, or from deck to grave, using Rindbrumm, Fallen Albaz. Use Saronir, banish the Mercourier, and get our Cartesia. This is all really similar right now. And special the Cartesia. Use Lubellion. Tribute the Saronir. And place our Branded Lost. Well, first trigger Saronir. Dump Retribution. And Bystial Lubellion will place Branded Lost. Next, use Cartesia's effects to go into Grand Guignol, the Tusk Dragon, using itself and the Aluber. Grand Guignol is going to trigger and Bloss is going to trigger. Can send Garura with Grand Guignol. Because we open Lubellion, we have an extra send. If we didn't open Lubellion, you would send Albion right now. Since we had Lubellion to search the Lost, we can just Lost add the Albion directly. And the Garura lets us draw an extra card. Next we're gonna Albion dump Branded in white. And Retribution add back the brand in white. Now you don't need to run brand in white. It's a bit swag, and you can definitely do this by just adding brand in red. But you know, if you, in case you do want to play white, you would continue like this, brand in white, to make Mirror Jade with the Albaz and the Garura engrave. And go into end phase, so activate Mirror Jade's effects to dump an Albion, and use Rindbrumm's effect to negate the Mirror Jade. This is very, again, this is the same thing. You don't have to return anything to hand, and activate Albion. In here, Brand in red is live, so because we had the Aluber, so you can set Brand in red. But I wanted to show you that Branded Expulsion is a legitimate interruption. So in order to use Branded Expulsion, we're going to keep the Cartesia engraved, and I'll show you what you can do with the Expulsion. So immediately, so assume you use a Mirror Jade or your Rindbrumm, right? You use either one, there's interruptions already. Next, you can use Expulsion to sack either of these two. Make sure you have to sack Rindbrumm or Mirror Jade, because they have Fallen of Albaz in their name. Target Mercourier, and target Cartesia. Special summon both. And again, Tri-Brain Mercourier can negate effects from the field as well as from the hand. So this is one interruption right here. And then Cartesia is another interruption where you can quick effect fuse into a Dragosopelia using Mirror Jade and any dark monster you have into a Dragosopelia. So that's another interruption, and you can get the brand and Lost again. So if you didn't want an Expulsion for the Mercourier, you can, and yet if you had a Mercourier in deck still and didn't hard draw like I did, you can brand and Lost, search the Mercourier for your turn. So you have like that was like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 interruptions plus infinite follow up plus whatever. with Lubellion or Saronir plus Aluber. Yeah, seems pretty good. Well, this is gonna be another Albion line, and the Albion line requirements, you know, are the starting with Aluber or Brand Infusion plus another Dark Monster, and this is plus Mercourier. If we draw Mercourier, we can actually do stuff with this. So, anyway, we have Foolish Burial. We can. This is why we run it. Foolish Burial, Dump Tragedy, and Tragedy get us our Aluber. Normal Aluber, and get our Brand Infusion. Next, we'll activate Brand Infusion for Albion, dumping Lubellion and Albaz. Then we'll use the Albaz to make Quartus with the Mercury in hand and our Aluber. This will trigger Mercourier, getting us our Cartesia. Lubellion, tribute the Albion. And place Branded Loss on our field. Next, a special Cartesia. And special fuse into Grand Guignol with Lubellion and Cartesia. Grand Guignol, Chainlink 1, Branded Loss, Chainlink 2. Branded Loss will add us our Springen's Kit. And Grand Guignol will send a Brickran the Glory Dragon. Special Kit. And here comes the white again. Can put back anything. Activate white. Go directly into Mirror Jade with Grand Guignol and Albaz. And end phase. Brigand will trigger, getting us our Mercourier. I'm not special summoning this time. Albion. Now, again, Brand Explosion is so good. Like, we can do the entire Brand Explosion thing again. So set Explosion. And you can choose to leave the Cartesia in your grave. Don't add it to your hand if you go for Explosion once again. Yeah. And we can once again, after Mirror Jade banishes anything, use Explosion, sack the Mirror Jade, bring back Cartesia, you can bring back the Aluber, special summon both of them. Aluber will get us a follow-up. We can add any branded spell trap to our hand. On the summon, we can once again Cartesia or the Dragos. Do not go into Carding Chimera with Cartesia. Chimera only gets the pop with what's it called? A spell fusion effect. Like Cartesia is not a spell, so we're having none of that. Aluber and Coritis do a Dragos Lopelia. Oh, and Lost will trigger again. You don't have to add the Albaz, I guess, but it's fine. And obviously, if you were gonna sack off the Mirror Jade with Expulsion, you try to wait until you can get value out of Mercourier first. Like negate something with Mercourier, obviously, and then Mirror Jade, and then you can do the Expulsion and then get back the Aluber to follow up plus the Cartesia. Like that's the thing about this deck. It's all about you have quite a lot of varied interactions you can access, and it's all about like sequencing them properly in a way where you can get the most out of them. So, got 2 lines now I want to show you that involve opening Cartesia. Obviously, you don't have to open the Cartesia, but you mainly get this off fusion deployment. It's you getting Cartesia and an Aluber on the field. So you can do that by hard opening Cartesia plus brand opening, or you can hard open Aluber plus fusion deployment. You know, either or fusion deployment plus brand opening. Either of those combinations work. So, but make sure you summon your Cartesia first. It's very important that it's on the field. Then activate brand opening or summon your Aluber or whatever. Get your Aluber. Yes. Activate Aluber's effect. Now the reason you want Cartesia on the field already is because it has a quick effect to fusion summon. So it's always correct to imperm or Valor the Aluber instead of waiting for the thing you summon off branded fusion, since if you already have branded fusion, then that means Aluber will search branded lost and your Valor and imperm are going to be dead anyways and you lose. So knowing that, Cartesia being a quick effect means if they try to imperm or Valor your Aluber, you can chain Cartesia and completely dodge it too. Dodge it to go into Grand Guignol, and then still get your Aluber search, and then your imperm did nothing. So yeah, this is why Cartesia is really good, and why fusion deployment is really good now, and why you want to summon it before Aluber. But let's assume your opponent let this go. So brand fusion, activate brand fusion. We're gonna go for the Albion line, dumping Albion and Albaz. Then use Albion's effects to make Lubellion with Albaz and Aluber. Activate Lubellion. And this is where Cartesia's quick effect comes in once again. You're going to chain Cartesia to the Lubellion effect, the fusion summon. So you're going to fusion summon into Grand Guignol with Lubellion and Cartesia. And because Lubellion can shovel from grave, banished, or field for fusion summon, you can make a Mirror Jade using the same Lubellion that you just used to make Grand Guignol with. And of course the Aluber. Summon out that Mirror Jade. And Grand Guignol effect will dump a... you have a couple options here. Don't dump Albion, you already have the Albion here, but you can choose to either dump a Brigand, which will get you a Mercourier in the end phase as a monster negate, or what I like to do is I dump Ad Libitum with Grand Guignol. Next, Lubellion. It's going to tribute off the Albion. And then Lubellion get us our branded lost. Then we go to the end phase and activate Albion, which will get us our branded in red. And we get to set the branded in red because we dumped the Ad Libitum, so it's live. And then we can add the Cartesia back to our hand as a monster for Guardian Chimera. And what's really awesome about this is You can Mirror Jade, for instance, banish something, brand in red, back the ad libitum, go into a Chimera with the Mirror Jade and the ad libitum, pop some more cards. On the fusion summon of Chimera, Branded Lost will also trigger. Get back that Mirror Jade, and then Branded Lost will get us our Mercourier anyways on our opponent's turn. And summon back the Mirror Jade. So, you know, how many interruptions was that, really? You had the Mirror Jade interruption, that's 1. You had the Brand in red, that's 2. The ad libitum sending back the Mirror Jade, that's 4. And then that's 3. And then searching the Mercourier, that's 4. That's 4 interruptions right there off of Aluber plus Cartesia. Okay, so next Cartesia plus Aluber combo I want to show, it's gonna look quite different, and that's like basically the idea of this deck is you can have a combination of like almost the same cards in hand or using the same cards in your combos, and you can do the combo completely different ways. And I don't know what you're thinking. Aluber plus Cartesia, how? Well, Gold Sark. It's very good, very high utility card in this deck. You can use it to banish Mercourier, which will add us our Cartesia to hand. Since we have Opening, we can expend normal on Cartesia, then use Opening, dumping that that Gimmick up, getting our Aluber, and then Aluber will get us our Brand Fusion. From here, we will Brand Infusion. This time for the Rindbrumm line. That'll be another Mercourier and Fallen of Albaz. Next, use Cartesia, making Grand Guignol with Aluber. And important to note, this combo, Grand Guignol effect, dump, Sprint the Iron Dash Dragon. So the one line where we're going to be using Sprint. And important to note of this combo is that was 4 summons. So this line in fact does play around Nibiru. Go into end phase, and here's where stuff starts happening. Blazing Cartesia, add it back to our hand, and Sprint will use effect will special summon Kit from deck. This is the fusion that lets us special Springans from our deck. So we're gonna special Kit, and Kit will get us our Branded in red, and we'll put back any card. Don't put back any card besides Cartesia. Keep the Cartesia in hand. Next, still in the end phase, we'll Brand in red for the Fallen of Albaz. Special summon Lubellion with Fallen of Albaz and Kit. Lubellion will discard Cartesia, the Cartesia that we added back. Go into Mirror Jade with itself and Albaz. And still end phase. Mirror Jade. Send Albion. And Rindbrumm will negate the Mirror Jade. You know, for that free banish next turn, that free send from the extra deck. Don't return anything. And now we're gonna activate Albion. And you already know I love going for explosion in these lines with Rindbrumm. Since now, not only do we have the classic, you know, as I've shown before, can revive Mercourier, we can revive Cartesia for fusion summon. We can even revive Aluber to get follow-up. and you know, we drew the Gimmick Public Nightmare. So if we want, we can just have our opponent not be able to special summon anything. And I've heard from Gimmick Public players that not even Gimmick Public can play through Gimmick Public a lot very well, because they got to use other non Gimmick Public cards to you know, do stuff. So yeah, if we really wanted to, we just locked out everyone for a turn. We still have the Mirror Jade banned, we have the Rindbrumm negate, we have the Grand Guignol special from extra, and the Explosion getting us up to 2 interruptions or a floodgate on our opponent. And most of this was done during end phase, aka for branded Despia, main phase 3, as what I guess what some people like to call it. Now I teased the last combo, but let's do a Gimmick Public lock where we don't draw Gimmick Public Nightmare, because if you draw Gimmick Public, as you can tell, you can just discard it as part of your normal combo, and it's free. You don't have to do anything special. So instead, we're gonna access this from deck, and this is the hand that can do it. Just Cartesia and Aluber is one way to do it. There's plenty of ways to do it. Most hands can achieve Gimmick Public loss, so I'll just show this as an example. And we have the branded loss too. We don't even need the branded loss, as I'll show in the combo line that we're doing. So normal Cartesia, branded opening for Aluber, and get our branded fusion. Let's activate branded fusion. Going for the Lubellion line, or we're going for the Albion line. Dumping Lubellion and following the Albaz. For Albion. Albion will trigger and we'll use our Lost. And I'll show that you don't need it to add anything important on this Lost. But we're just adding a blank Mercourier that we're not going to use for the rest of the turn. And Albion will make Lubellion with Aluber and Albaz. Use Lubellion's effect to discard our last remaining card in hand, and chain Cartesia. So let us go into the Grand Guignol with Lubellion. And Lubellion will make us our Mirror Jade with itself and Albaz. Next Grand Guignol will send our Gimmick Public Nightmare from our deck to grave. And we'll use Lubellion to tribute the Albion. And this is what I mean by we didn't need Lost, since Lubellion would just place the Lost on our field if we didn't draw it anyways. Not that this is even necessary for the combo. You know, it's just a nice bonus. We have all the requirements, so in the end phase, since we're gonna be Gimmick locking, we're not gonna need to summon Cartesia off Explosion, so we can just add it back to hand. And then Albion will get us our Explosion. Set it to the field. And on opponent's turn, we can use Explosion. We don't have to tribute Mirror Jade this time, since we're not summoning both monsters to our field. You can just sack any old fusion. And get Gimmick Public Nightmare and Aluber. Give the Gimmick Puppet to your opponent. And get the Aluber back for yourself to get another search for follow-up. And now your opponent can't special summon literally anything that's played at all in the game. And you have way enough gaps in follow-up to kill them next turn. Oh yeah, this is a very healthy combo that definitely exists in this game. And yeah. So this is what a sample deck list will look like. I think this is gonna be pretty standard for 90%. This is gonna be pretty standard. Don't worry about the fusion deployment. You can get these from the Cyber Dragon structure deck. So just buy 3 of those. I spent all my gems, so I'm a 1k gem short, but this is the easiest part to get out of the deck. And yeah, so we got the 3 deployment is very important, since not only can they get our Cartesia for combos, but you can also, if you're going second, you can just summon Fallen Albaz for free, which is just has to bait out the negate. Otherwise, you just fuse with the field. And we have the Master Duel stuff, the Maxi tax. We have the Alice to Ash Blossom. Don't get it twisted. I'm not running Maxi to draw cards. I'm running this so they can discard Ash Blossom from their hand. It's sad Aluber and Brandon Opening are at 2 in Master Duel, because clearly those were the hits, and Brandon Fusion still at 3. You have the Brandon in white, which you don't have to run, but I'll run for testing it. The 1 Brandon lost. The 1 Brandon red. 1 is all you need now. I like Banishment since we're still in a tier meta, and this card is really good against tier. Of course, you don't need to run this either, since you're most of the time gonna get one of these, Expulsion and Retribution, as your search targets if your Brandon red is not live. And Foolish and Sarcophagus are just more copies, ways to get to Brandon Fusion with additional utility, because on top of dump, Foolish Burial doesn't only dump Tragedy to get Aluber, it can also dump a Saronir or Lubellion for us if we already have Aluber. Same with Gold Sark, you can, as you saw, we don't have to banish the Tragedy to get Aluber if we already have it. You can banish Mercourier and get out more stuff that way. The Bystial lineup. So the Bystial lineup might look a little weird in that we have triple Saronir but just 1 Lubellion. Well, the thing is, if we're in a format where Bystials are good hand traps, which I think we still are, with tier being the best deck still, then I want to run more copies of Saronir than Lubellion, since Saronir is a useful hand trap during your opponent's turn when you go second. So if you have Lubellion in hand and you're going second, I mean, it's nice that you have combo, but you can't use it. And in a deck that already has that can't run the most non-engine like Brandon Despia already, you want to, like, as much, if you have a card that's both defensive and be able to interact on your opponent during their turn while also still being helpful for your engine, then I would prefer running that over the more copies of Lubellion. And 1 Cartesia, you can run more with Cartesia too. You can run one or two, I would say, because this card's not bad to draw at all. It's just it's hard to make use of it if you draw it in Master Duel, obviously, since we only have 2 opening instead of 3. But you can definitely run more Cartesia. Kit is just used, as you saw, it's used in some combos and it's a lost target. Albion, same thing. Ad libitum is the main thing you use, main thing you want when you want to use Brandon red. Double Mercouriers, so you can use 1 during your combo and banish it during your combo and get search another one at the end for disruption too. And that's, for most part, should be it for the main deck and the extra deck. This is required, Albion's required, Dragostea is required, Chimera is required, Rindbrumm's required, Grand Guignol is required. Lubellion, you don't need more than 1, since you're, unlike before, before when you literally made Lubellion, like almost every time you activated Brandon Fusion, you're only making Lubellion like maybe a third of the time now with Brandon Fusion, and it recycles itself, so you definitely don't need more than 1, before Cash and Diablosis comes. Then we have the flex spots, are the Proskenion, Coritis, Garura, Alba Lenitus, and Sprint. Sprint is... I guess I'll go over Scanion first, because Scanion is just a target to summon off of Grand Guignol. It's the best thing to summon off of this, so... Yeah, it's it definitely does come up when you leave this, when you don't banish this for Brandon White and stuff, or Brandon Red. Garura, I can... So the combo I showed with Garura, you don't actually need to use Garura at all. You can just dump Ad-lib them instead of Garura, and all you'd be missing is like one draw, but you'd have Ad-lib them for a Brandon Red instead of Garura. So like, if you're not running Super Poly, this isn't this. Obviously, if you're running Super Poly, you would run this and Mud Dragon in your flex spots. I actually didn't want to, in test hands, I didn't like Super Poly because, as you saw in a lot of combos, we discard a lot of cards already, and sometimes I just didn't have any good discards at all for Super Poly. It was especially when you're going first, and you have to use stuff like Called By and Cross Out to protect your plays. So yeah, Garura and Mud Dragon, run these if you run Super Poly. If you don't, you can cut these. And the Sprint, the Iron Dash Dragon, has two perps. This is one. You saw there was one line where you can get Kit in the end phase and combo it there by getting Branded Red. So that's kind of a niche application. And the other one is it just requires Fallen Albaz and a monster special summon this turn. So you can summon Albaz during your opponent's turn, either with Expulsion occasionally or with Rindbrumm's effect. So if you have an Albaz engraved, say you opened one and you discarded it, you can, even if you don't make Rindbrumm, you can Mirror Jade, dump Rindbrumm, and then Rindbrumm has a graveyard effect where you can target one Fallen Albaz in your graveyard and special summon that, and banish the other. So you would banish Rindbrumm and special Albaz, and then that's a way to get Albaz on your opponent's turn. And if you're summoning Albaz on your opponent's turn, Sprint has the most generic conditions. It's just one effect monster special summon this turn, so you can fuse with anything as disruption. So yeah, I kind of like it as that. There's some flex spots, and Alba Lenitus is just for it's just for that one. If you ever face any dragons, you know, branded Bystial Dragonlink is also a real deck. So yeah, and other options. One is Verte is still legal in Master Duel. There are some times where you can use Verte to unbrig yourself, like sometimes if you like go second or if you get Veilered on Aluber or other stuff, but you were able to summon a Bystial, you can go into, and you have no other plays, you can make a Bystial and like anything into a Verte and try to play that way. It's just not bad. And Masquerade, the other thing is, instead of the Coritis target, instead of the Coritis, you can run a Masquerade. Masquerade, it's like in the combo line where we made Coritis, you can make Masquerade instead, and it's a little better in that case, since most of the time the Despia fusion you summon, it's just going to be used as material, and it's just used to get Mercourier out of your hand. So in that case, Masquerade does something, although this variant Quietus has a floating effect. So you know, if you're in a game state where you have to make this is on average probably gonna keep you alive more than one Masquerade. It's really hard to make multiple Masquerades now, since we're not running the Patchwork engine, and the way you would normally do it was, you know, use polymerization with Adlib to get multiple Masquerade out, but that's really hard to do now. So yeah, you can run Masquerade too, and yeah, that's pretty much it. It's I know this is a long intro to this deck, but this deck is, the support really changes how the deck plays quite a lot. So I just wanted to make sure I wanted to cover this decently thoroughly. and I'll be playing this deck on ladder too, so I'll get some replays and I'll get some more experience with this deck too, and show you guys more footage later. So yeah, and obviously, you know, I'm not the best brand Despia player, so if any of y'all have insights and like more combos you want to share in the comments, you know, feel free to do so. Oh yeah. You can obviously run Gimmick Puppet too. You can put a Gimmick Puppet in the main deck. I'm testing with Albaz since, you know, I want to see if like, I've shown like Expulsion can do stuff without Gimmick Puppet already. Like and it's pretty cracked anyway. So I'm not playing Gimmick Puppet right now, but you know that might change in the future too.